Once a space for inspiration, growth over everything has evolved into something far greater, a movement for education, empowerment, and elevation for women. Here, gratitude isn't just a concept, it's a way of life. Strength isn't just spoken about, it's cultivated. Success isn't just imagined, it's achieved. This is where balance, self care, and transformation take center stage, where you don't just dream about growth, you step boldly into it. No limits, no hesitation, just elevation. Join the movement today. Welcome back to the Woman's Hustle, Thrills and Spills of Entrepreneurship. It's your girl, Coach K. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. As you know, as I do in every episode, please make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Upgraded Mindsets Media channel. If you're listening audio-wise, then make sure you are favoriting the Woman's Hustle on your favorite streaming platform so you can get notified of all these new episodes that's dropping, because I got some phenomenal ladies that is blessing the podcast with their knowledge, their expertise, their insight, their thrills, their spills. And this episode is going to be no different. So without further ado, I'm going to allow my guest the honor of introducing herself. Hello, hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, actually.
Good, good. I'm so glad you are here. Please let the listeners know who you are.
So my name is Asya Washum. I go by Asia B, and I am a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for many years. I am a finance executive and just a dope person.
Hey, because period. I love it. I love it. Hey, we claims that around here. You know what I'm saying? I love it. I love it. I thank you so much for being here, blessing the Woman's Hustle. Super excited to dive into some conversation with you, sis. But I just want you to start a little bit about your backstory and how you got to where you are today.
Well, I'm originally from New Jersey, and I moved to Atlanta when I was in high school. So I kind of like to say that I'm a hybrid. Now, obviously, I live in Peoria, and I have found this place to be home. And so I'm excited about that. As far as career wise, I always say I've lived 1,000 lives because I've done so many different things. And I recently found out that a lot of highly intelligent people move around a lot in their career because they get bored easily. So I'm just going to add myself to that bucket right there.
Hey, we'll take
And
it.
say
We'll
that.
claim it.
But as far as finance, it was really an unlikely story for me. It was really a divine intervention, I feel. I actually happened to get a ticket in Chicago, and I was an entrepreneur at the time. And so sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, your money is a little funny.
Period.
And so they gave me the option to do community service. And so at the time, I went to Carver Community Center, and I went there for like a Black women's breastfeeding thing. I have children, and so I just went there because I really wanted to get more involved in the community, and it was earlier when I had moved to Peoria. And so they allowed me to do my community service there. And within the 2 weeks, I met a State Farm agent, and he was opening up an agency, and he harassed me for that time to join his team because I have a strong sales background. I'm really good at sales. And so he was like, you have to join my team. You have to join my team. And I was like, insurance? Are you sure?
Right.
Me? Like, let's be for real, because I'm a fashion girl. I'm a get up and go kind of girl. I'm bright. Insurance gave stuffy numbers, sitting in the office. It gave very much so boring. Yeah. And so, but they say we plan and then God plans. And he obviously had the best plan, because when I got in insurance, I realized that I really loved it. I love solving problems. I love bringing value to people, and I just love helping my community. And so I found that if I could make something complex simple for people that look like you and me, we could really change the game financially, because sometimes it's about access, and it's about what you understand, and just somebody sitting with you and breaking it down for you, and it makes sense. A lot of time we don't take action because we just don't have awareness of what the action that's needed, and it
Talk
doesn't make
about it.
sense. And so I would have conversations, and I was really successful, and then I decided to open my own practice.
I love it.
And so I opened a practice, and I was licensed in many states across the nation. And I think the unique thing about being a Black woman in finance and a Black woman in insurance is it's not traditional for us.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity that I had was to bring a lot of different people that look like me to the table that would not traditionally be there. And
Yeah.
so it was really interesting because everyone, my colleagues, they were looking like, how is she doing this? Because, as people of color, we may have a rich auntie and we may
Yeah.
have, a cousin that's
The
on.
default that it's gotta be something. Somebody's helping her with something. Yeah.
Right, right.
That.
And so we don't really necessarily operate in like a class system. We operate in community.
Yeah.
And so I would have clients that were millionaires, and I would have clients that were living check to check. And so it was really fascinating for my colleagues because they had never seen somebody who can touch such a wide range
The
audience.
diversity.
And
Yeah.
so I felt that was my strong suit. Wanted to take a break because working in finance could be a little bit draining.
Oh, I
And then I
bet.
got some more opportunity to be a finance exec. So that is how I got into finance.
Hey, I love it. I love it. You are definitely a numbers girl, sounds like, and I think that's dope. I want to touch on what you said a little bit because especially as Black women, um, they feel like that, there's so many societal stigmas that really do plague us. So I love that you shed a light on that because we have the power to be whatever and whoever we want to be,
Yeah.
and it really just involves breaking those barriers down and being unapologetic, daring to be different in a sense, because that's something that we have to do. I've struggled with that, as far as being different, but I didn't realize what it was for me, because I wasn't on that journey of transformation, which I have been for the past 5 years. So really like knowing who I want to be, what I want to be. And also too, as women, Black women especially, we definitely will put ourselves at the low end of the totem pole as
Mm-hmm.
mothers, even
Mm-hmm.
as wives and things
Yep.
like that. So we don't always step into those things.
Right.
That's such a passion for me now because us stepping into our purpose and
Mm-hmm.
being unapologetic about it, baby, we are a force to be reckoned with. So I
Seriously.
love that you identify with that, and also just from the finance tip, but you also have other things that you have done within the community, outside the community. I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about those too.
Absolutely. So when I originally came to Peoria, I was an entrepreneur. I had a T-shirt called the Faith Tee, and it has faith written in Arabic and in English. And so that was really one of my entrepreneurial journeys. When I came to Peoria, I designed the shirt in honor of my sister who passed away in 2011. And so it was really a process of me going through healing. And so, generally speaking, if I'm doing something, I generally do not do things that I'm not either passionate about or that I really believe in. So, if
Wow.
you see me doing something, please know that I am like
There's
fired
purpose
up
behind this, baby.
about it because I'm not just, I can be fun, but I'm not shallow.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of depth. And so when I choose things, I'm very strategic about the things that I choose, and I'm really deliberate in the things that I choose. So I have the t-shirt line. I'm actually going to be relaunching that this year,
Nice.
fingers crossed. But then I
Yay.
also had a brand called The Uncommon Life. And so speaking, kind of piggybacking on what you said, I found myself, I was married at the time, with 4 children. And I kind of just didn't really know who I was as an individual.
Mhm.
And so I was kind of on this quest similar to what you were talking about. And I got a spiritual coach. And, my first call with her, she was like, "Who is Asia?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a mom. I'm a
Yep.
wife.
Be proud to say
I'm,
those things and
yes,
got your
like,
face cracked.
yes, I'm a businesswoman. I'm a this, I'm a that. And I had all of the things. And I was so proud. So
Yeah,
proud of all that I was. And I still am proud of the
of course.
titles that I wear. But that is not the woman that I am. And there's
Yeah,
a distinct difference. And so she was so
absolutely.
gracious and so kind. And she let me go on and on and on. And at the end of it, she looked me dead in my face and said, "I still have no idea who you are." And I was stunned. What do you
Yeah.
mean you don't know who I am? Like, what do you mean? I just told you who
That
I
part.
am.
That part.
And she said, "No, that's what you do. That's not who you are."
Yeah.
And then I sat there and I was just like, "Well, I don't know. I don't know." Because I had become so engulfed in,
Yeah.
being for everyone and being everything. And so I decided in that moment that I was going to discover who I
Yeah.
am. And so
Period.
one way that I started was just making a list of things because I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I was
Yeah.
interested in. And I put like crazy things. Like I want to go, simple things like hot yoga. I want to try pottery. And then also things like I want to go on a weekend trip on my own.
Yeah.
Or I want to take myself out to dinner. I want to go to a fancy restaurant. Like I want to get dolled up. Like, so I was challenging myself to discover who I actually was as a
Mm.
woman. And through that, I started to talk to other women and I realized many women feel the same way.
Baby, it's so much more common than people realize.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah, and they like I would have events, and we would the events I would have was called cocktails and conversation,
I love
and I
it.
would just like have a custom drink and some like hors d'oeuvres, and we would just sit around and talk. I
Yeah.
would have like a topic, icebreakers, and what we were doing was building community
Yep.
because it's important not just to know who you are, but to have people to support you in your becoming or in your being. You
Yes,
know.
ma'am.
And so I did that. And then I kind of needed to make some life shifts and I kind of got into finance. So I let that go. But that was just a really important, space for me, just the
Yeah.
transformation and understanding. And whenever I don't know exactly where the true north is and where I want to be, I always go back to that because life
Yes.
is always a becoming and life is always something that you reinvent. I'm not even the same person that I was a year
Ooh,
ago.
that part.
So it's something that I find is transformative, and I really just enjoy the journey of becoming the next version and the
Yeah.
next version of myself. So
I love that. I love that so much because, like, we share that similarity so much because I will always be becoming, I will always be evolving, and I'll always be a lifelong learner. That's one of the most critical things that not only do I teach myself, but I also instill that into my clients. Yes, I'm here to show you things, give you tips and strategies and tools, but I'm also here to tell you that these are things that you will be able to use over and over again as you continue to pivot, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's in your business. Because
mhm.
one thing that I think we both can agree on is the personal and the professional and the entrepreneurial have to be aligned,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
We will try to start things if we're not passionate about that. I love that you spoke on that. Anything that you do is intentional based, is purpose based. And that's important for us as women entrepreneurs to understand. It has to be purposeful for you. If
Mhm.
the only way that you're wanting to do this is to make money, it's not going to work.
No, because
I,
sometimes you won't. Sometimes you won't make money.
we won't make money out the gate in
Yeah.
business. You know what I'm saying? Starting a business is not going to make you money out the gate. Do you know how many investments that you have to do? You know
Absolutely.
how much insight, like resources, like tools that you got to purchase, things like that, whether you're trying to get a brick and mortar, whether you're
Mhm.
only virtual, things like that, there's still
Mhm.
investments that have to be made.
Mhm.
And I think that that's super important for us to understand. I know that you talked about having, a couple of businesses, and I'm super excited to hear about you relaunching one too. And I'm curious to know, like, what made you decide to want to relaunch?
So I think every business that I've had has been purpose driven. And
Mm,
so it's not only number one, people always ask me. So
mm,
with the hoodies and the t-shirts, people are always like, "Man, I really wish you would bring it back." Or people will call me for orders. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that right now. I
right.
moved on. I have some other things going on." But people consistently ask me. And I always feel that if people are consistently asking you, there's a
Yeah,
need for it. And
come
so
on. It's
um,
facts.
my goal in life is to grow and be the best version of I am, but also to be of service and to
Mm,
give the goodness that is on the inside of me to other people. And so because people are asking and because I'm like, it started, the t-shirt started in honor of my sister, but we've
mm,
all lost somebody.
Yeah.
And not just in that, we all have a faith journey, and we all have a journey where we have to step out as a businesswoman, as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, where that is largely faith based. You have to
Ooh.
believe that what you are
Hey, people
bringing
don't even
forward,
understand that, yo.
yeah, you like it is intense. And so I'm like, this can be so big, and it really can
Yeah.
be transformative for so many people, and it's a way for us to come together, because I think sometimes when you talk about faith and belief and things like that, we like to other people, oh, I'm
Yeah.
not that, I'm this, or I don't believe in that, I'm spiritual, or I'm this. And it's like, we are all human beings,
That
and
part.
we all have a central thing that brings us together. And
Come
so
on.
you may call, your God this, or I may call my God that, or, you may, meditate, or you may do that, but it's still the root of it is the same.
Yeah.
And so I think that the more specifically where we are as a society right now, that we begin to come together and
Yeah.
realize that it's not you versus me, it's us, the better off we will be. And
Absolutely.
so that is kind of why I wanted to relaunch that. And then with the events and the uncommon life, I think it's important to give people an example of what it means to be uncommon.
Yeah.
What does that look like? So many times we get into a space where it's like, oh, that's not how we do things. That's not the way we dress, or that's not
Child.
the way we speak. And it's like, well, why not? Is it
Yeah.
offensive? Is it disrespectful? Or is it just different? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that we have to allow people to be different and have space for differences, because that is the power of community.
That's straight like that.
Yeah, I don't have, all of my friends don't sit and think exactly the way that I do, but I grow when we come into contact,
Yeah.
because I don't have people around me that don't challenge me, that don't push me. And so it's
Listen.
like, if we all just want a copy of one another, then it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
It's no purpose to that. It's no,
No.
because then we're just going along, and then then we retire, then we, pass on, but it's like there's no depth there. It's no
Yeah.
moving us forward. And I think that a part of our work here is to grow and to become greater versions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love what you talking about, especially when it comes to like the uncommon, because we spend so many times, the amount of clients that people, or people that have come to me, whether they've retained me as a coach or whatever else, the amount of people that come to me and be like, oh, I just want to do it like this person. I want to do it like this person. That's not purpose driven. You should
Mm-hmm.
not want to be like anybody else at all. You are an individual for a reason. And it's important for you to understand that you've got to discover who you are meant to be.
Absolutely.
You touching on that earlier, that is something that, as coming to me, you got to work on that first, because people will be like, oh, I want you to help me with my business. Okay. So that's cool. Let's talk about it. But we're going to talk about the personal aspect first, because the one thing that I cannot do is work with somebody that has a bunch of havoc going on in their personal life, but think that they're going to excel in any form of business. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
You're going to be so wrapped up in the
Mm-hmm.
toxicity, the negativity,
Mm-hmm.
especially with people. I love that you touched on that. You have to be around people who are growth minded. They
Mm-hmm.
might not think the same, they
Mm-hmm.
might not even be in the same spaces as you, but you
Mm-hmm.
do have to have that form of community around you if you're wanting to pivot on any level. I have several different types of tribes. I have fellow coaching tribes. I have my friend tribe. I have my business partner side tribe, having those different areas. But one thing that they do is support me just as much as I support them. They
Right.
pour into me just as much as I pour into them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what has allowed me to be successful and continue to pivot in these last 5 years. Because
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you, had I not acquired that, because that's not something that I had in the beginning,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but through a lot of learning experiences, and I'd love for you to touch on that as well. Just through a lot of learning experiences,
Mm-hmm.
ups and downs, failures that have turned into opportunities, this is where I am today, with the continuation to grow and the expectation to grow.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to share, like, the challenges that you may have gone through with regards to the entrepreneurial journey, as I call them, the thrills and spills, because we
Yeah.
know entrepreneurship is a roller coaster ride. So I'd
Right.
love for you just to share some thrills and spills that have, kind of given you the failure into opportunity mindset?
Yeah, so for me, I was raised that I could do anything. So I'm one of those people that literally thinks that, all right, just give me a second to adjust. And I can get it done.
Right.
It's there's a healthy level of arrogance there, if you will, but you know what? I have not been proven wrong yet. So
I
there's
love
that.
that. I
But
love
no,
it.
I think for me in entrepreneurship and as I am going through the relaunch and the next phase of who I am as a woman and then also who I am as a business person,
Yeah.
the thing that I constantly am doing now, see, before I'm a builder. So I come with an idea and I start today
Yeah.
because I'm like, we can figure that out tomorrow. If a problem comes, I'm a great problem solver. I can figure that out, right? But
Right.
now my goal is God make me the person that can handle it
Mm,
because it's not about me in this sense. It is about what I'm supposed to bring forth. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
so it's about less about doing and it's more about becoming for me at this point.
Mm,
Because I'm like, I can do things. I'm extremely talented. You know what
right.
I mean? I have a lot of different talents, which I've done so many different things. However, it's not about me and my talent. It's about the service to others that I'm going to bring forward. And to be a true leader, in my opinion, it's not about, you being there. You are just the person that's going to get the credit.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about you. And so I want people and I want the people that I'm in charge of leading on, assignment and the people that come into my life and we're supposed
Yeah.
to grow and learn together. I want those people to be changed. I want those people to be inspired. I want those people to know. And so one thing that constantly keeps me going is my belief in what's possible and my belief in what I'm assigned to do. Because it does get hard. Recently, ran a political campaign, and I would say arguably that was maybe one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Mm,
And it's not hard in the sense of going places and meeting people. That's not
right.
difficult for me.
Yeah.
It's the challenging yourself to be a new version of yourself because
Yes.
to get something new, you have to be new,
Ooh,
you
say it
know.
again.
And so, like I said, I'm not even the same person a year ago. I'm not even the person that I was before I started, running the campaign because I was stretched and pushed and I cried and I grew and I put everything that I had into it. And then I still didn't win. So,
Yeah.
even just like battling that and coming face to face with the fact that sometimes, even if you give it everything you have, sometimes, even if you feel that you are being called to do something, what happens when you don't win?
Yeah.
And that is the journey of an entrepreneur. That is the journey of life. That is the journey of anything when you try to do, big things, grand things, things outside of yourself.
Facts.
Um, but what I learned is you move on. What did you
Hmm.
learn? Who did you become? What did you do? Who did you touch? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, what impact did you have on others? And how did you push yourself beyond who you thought you could be?
Yeah.
Because the journey, in many, many ways, is the gift. Like
Hey,
knowing that
people
you can do
underestimate
it.
the journey.
The journey is, to me, is more powerful.
It
I mean,
is.
winning is great, but becoming is better for me. You
Yeah.
know what I
Come on.
mean?
Talk
Because
about
it's
it.
like you have to dig deep when you're in these places. When you are an entrepreneur and you have rent to pay, mortgage to pay, car note to pay, and you have to dig deep,
Yeah.
in those spaces and bring something, forward to help you move forward. You have to bring that version of you that doesn't get paralyzed by fear,
Yep.
that you
It's
have to
facts.
know. And that's when you like dig deep. And that's how you know that you're not doing it just about the money.
Yeah.
Because if it's just about the money, then you would quit. You say, I'm just going
Yeah.
to get a job because I
I'll
have
just
X,
get a
Y, and
job.
Z.
That part.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So,
I
I
love
mean,
that.
those are some of the things like, for me and personally, I didn't ever conceive that I wouldn't win. But then when I didn't win, I was still fine because I knew that I had given everything that I had. I
Yeah.
knew there wasn't anything else I could
Yeah.
have done.
Yeah. That was a powerful mindset shift. And that's something that we do have to understand as entrepreneurs. You can't have the negative mindset of, oh, I didn't win, so I'm a failure. It's, I didn't win. What did I learn from this? What
Mm-hmm.
lessons did I actually gain from this? Just like you said. And it's important for us to understand. The journey to me is more important. One of my quotes is the journey is necessary,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like the journey, you don't know where you're going to end up. The
Right.
fear of unknown is what a lot of times we will just not do anything because we're scared of the unknown. We don't know what's going to be on the other side. So we just won't do anything and we'll stay stagnant. But
Mm-hmm.
the journey is so necessary because, as you said, it's a part of becoming who
Mm-hmm.
you are destined to be, the most
Mm-hmm.
empowering version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we have to embrace.
Mm-hmm.
It is scary, y'all, but scared is an emotion. Fear is false evidence appearing real. We know
Right.
that 85% of the things that we are fearful of never happen.
Right.
So, are you going to let that 85% speculation
Mm-hmm.
stop you from doing what it is that you want to do, not
Mm-hmm.
only as an entrepreneur, but in your personal life as
Right.
well? So I
Right.
think it's important for to understand the importance of that mindset shift, trusting the process, having faith in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're unsure about those things, and I love when I talk to guests that say that they've spoken with coaches, they've hired coaches, because people don't understand the importance of how a coach can help you transform your
Mm-hmm.
life.
Yep.
Coaches are not here to try to be therapists to people.
Right.
I'm definitely not trying to be nobody therapist, okay?
Right. Right.
But let me tell you something. I have my own mentor. I have my own coach. And without them, I would not be where I am today, because they are the second level of clarity that I need. They are that inspiration that I need. They are that idea bouncer that I need. They
Mm-hmm.
are the person on the sidelines helping me stay strategic and
Mm-hmm.
guiding me to success
Right.
and whatever that may look like for me on whatever level. So I
Mm-hmm.
love that, you went in, got that reality check, but guess what you did? You evolved from that, sis. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's beautiful.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think it gave me perspective,
Absolutely.
because I am somebody that a lot of things come easy to. Like,
Hmm.
I say I'm going to do something and I do it, and so
Yep.
I think just the reality, it was like, oh, is this what happens? Like, we don't.
Right.
Oh,
What you say? Oh, this is, oh,
oh,
okay.
this
Okay.
is
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
but I think it's important, and I think it's important not just for me, but I think it's important for my children to see,
Yeah.
that in life you get up, you
Yes.
get up.
Come on. Talk
It's
about it,
like,
Asia.
because life is not always easy. I mean, we didn't talk about this obviously, but I was born prematurely in the 80s, early 80s.
Yeah.
And it was very likely that I actually was not going to live.
Yeah.
Because I was in an incubator. Like, my dad literally can hold me in the palm of his hand. I could fit inside
Mm.
a shoebox. And so I always tell people I can do anything
Mm.
because I was born into adversity. I was born beating the odds. And it's like, when you have the mindset that you can overcome anything and you just move yourself forward, all you have to do is don't quit.
Yeah.
All you have to do, and not quitting a specific task, just quitting in life. Like, and that doesn't mean don't take a break though, because
Right.
sometimes you need rest, and sometimes
Yeah.
you need to recalibrate, and sometimes you
That's a
need to
part of
love
the
on
journey.
yourself.
That is definitely a part of the journey. We will sit up here and put self care to the side. Self care is not a luxury, people. It is a
Mm-hmm.
necessity.
Yeah.
You taking care of yourself, you prioritizing you is a necessity. So I
Mm-hmm.
want people to really understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can't give. I'm learning that now because I've been such a go, go, go. I'm a producer.
Yeah.
I'm a person that says I want to do something and I'm a figure it out.
Right.
But now I am learning it's not a race.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
That part.
Make progress, but take it easy.
Yeah.
What are you
Yeah.
feeling?
Small wins are wins.
Yeah.
Um, we don't celebrate the journey along the way.
Mm-hmm.
We focus on the end goal and don't celebrate or focus on the journey along the way.
Mm-hmm.
You on the journey itself is a win.
Yeah.
So whatever that looks like for you, if you are somebody who was looking into starting a business, if you're somebody that is in business and you need to revamp, that's me personally. I have spent the last 6 months revamping all of like the backside administrative stuff within my business,
Yeah.
shifting programs, shifting platforms,
Right.
doing all of that. And there have been moments where I'm like, I see why I waited a year and a half to do this. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't stand it. But
Yeah.
I knew it had to be done for the continual growth of my business.
Right.
So it's just important to understand that those things are going to happen. Sometimes old processes that you did, they might not be as effective now. We are moving on in time. Is for example, the relaunch of your business or of your t-shirt business. When you do that, there may be some methods that you did before that you might have to shift into. But I know because you have that mindset of understanding that processes can change, but the goal is to launch that, that you might have to make adjustments. So I really think it's important for people to understand that it's okay to have to do things differently. That's a
Hmm.
part of the process. You have to be open-minded as an entrepreneur. If you're somebody that just don't want to listen to nobody and feel like, oh, I got this, that's one of the worst things that you can do is feel like that you can do all your business moves by yourself. I do
Yeah.
not encourage that. I ask you to seek help, and it ain't gonna be y'all friends and family. I tell y'all that all the time. It ain't gonna be them.
Right.
If
Right.
you don't have entrepreneurs in your family and that are willing to say, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation about this, I advise you to seek somewhere outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
Real
Mm-hmm.
talk.
For real.
Yeah, I'm just like, I want us to get out of that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we want them to support us, but sometimes they can be supportive by saying, hey, I'm not really familiar with that. I don't know. You may want to seek some outside help regarding that.
Right.
That's the biggest support to me. If somebody that don't know what they talking about tell me, hey, I don't know. So I'm finna go, I recommend that you go holler at somebody, talk to somebody, do this and that. That's the
Right.
biggest support somebody can give me. Be real
Right.
with me.
Right.
Like, be real with me.
For sure. For
So,
sure.
but yeah, as we get ready to close out here, I would love for you to just give some encouraging words, some insight, or maybe even some tips that you could share. The Woman's Hustle has a variation of listeners, from women who are in visionary stage, women who are stuck on the journey, scaling entrepreneurs. What type of insight or, tips or anything that you would recommend to them?
I think first and foremost, just remember why you got started. What is it that you actually want to bring forward and stick to that? Now, that doesn't mean that it won't change along the way. It doesn't
Right.
mean that, you won't have to pivot. Life is about evolution. So in business, you
Yes.
have to be able to pivot because the world changes constantly. And so I think just always be teachable, be coachable, and be a learner. And I think
Hmm.
when something doesn't work, don't be afraid to move forward,
Yeah.
no matter what that is. If you have to pause, if you have to take a step back and rethink things, I think it's going to be critical. And I think remember who you are. To me,
Yeah.
that's always the thing that guides me in life is just who am I and who do I desire to be.
I
And if
love
it
it.
doesn't align with that, then I don't do it. Or I change the way I'm doing it because that's most important. I always want the essence of
Yeah.
who I am to
I love
shine through everything that I do. So I think remembering who you are and stand firm on that. When people don't understand it, when people doubt it, when people question it, you are bringing forward the things that you are supposed to.
it.
And whether it's be for a season, whether it be for, forever, you stay true to that. Because sometimes people on the sidelines, they don't understand, why you're doing something. And sometimes it's to move you to the next point. So stay on the journey, stay
Yeah.
encouraged, um, and do the
I
thing.
love it. I love it. I love it. What else coming up for Asia B?
So I have so much coming up, but I'm moving slowly, so that's good. So
Right.
I'm doing the relaunch of the t-shirt business. I am actually going to be relaunching the Uncommon Life in some way. Um, I'm not really sure 100% what that looks like, but I also do consulting. I do consulting as a CFO for small nonprofits, and then I also do workshops for business. Um, and so I come in and I speak with their staff about moving past barriers. And I have a series right now that I'm doing called Daring Greatly. So I am a busy Busy girl.
Hey, I love it. I love it. I love it. Make sure you come back and share updates and things like that. Listen, you guys, we definitely know that growth is mandatory. If you're looking to launch, scale, pivot in any area when it comes to this entrepreneur game, you've got to be open minded and accept the fact that you don't know everything when it comes to that. Be
Mm-hmm.
open to receive that guidance. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I can potentially help you with. We can help you work on your passion, your purpose, your perseverance, and your performance. Upgraded mindsets, core pillars are those things to help you become the best version of yourself. Even with Asia speaking with businesses, nonprofit organizations, that's definitely something. Her contact details will be in the podcast description notes, so you'll be able to reach out. Let them know where they can find you at on social media.
On Facebook, you can find me at Asia B, ASYA B. All over social media, you can find me at Live Life Uncommonly.
Information will be in the notes as well. Sis, it has been great. I am so enjoyed this conversation. I
I do
really
too.
appreciate you being here, sharing your uncommon insight, and I love it. Continue to be who you are, continue to be that unique, dope individual. You are definitely showing it and glowing it, and I appreciate you being here and dropping them gems today.
Thank you so much. I had a good time.
Absolutely. All right, y'all, we're going to get out of here. Again, if you have not subscribed, make sure that you do so. Share this with your fellow entrepreneur sisters and let them know, hey, check this podcast out. Let us know what you thought of the episode. We definitely welcome feedback. Leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. Leave a comment if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform. Definitely don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. And if you are interested in being a guest on The Woman's Hustle, then make sure you reach out as well. You can email at info@upgradedmindsets.life and we'll talk more about it. I appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. Stay empowered, baby.